And our industry, if we are, it's one thing to act like a professional, but if you are a professional and you run your operation like a professional, the people in your business are a professional, you will be treated like a professional. So the people that come into our organization, our clients, they want a professional, and they're going to get excellent service, and we're going to charge accordingly. We're going to be a profitable business. So then I can compensate my people.
I like people, and I like thinking about and studying people. And I kind of would like to spend some time just kind of analyzing like what was different. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times what I found was, like, and this is very anecdotal because I don't have mass numbers. I just have from conversations that I've had. Welcome back to another episode of the Garage Grit podcast, another origin and impact series. And I'm Brad Herlock, your host, owner and co-owner of AA Shop Marketing, a digital marketing company for auto repair shops. And today we have Lou with us from Lou's Car Care up in New York. And we're going to be talking to him about how he's gotten into the industry and where he's at today, and all the lessons learned along the way. And hopefully we'll also be able to chat, Lou, about, if you don't mind, I would like to chat with you about your coaching program as well. So, but let's, Lou, why don't you take a moment, introduce yourself, tell us about your shop size currently and what it looks like, what your footprint is. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Brad. My name's Lou Cannata. I'm second generation owner of my family business, Lou's Car Care and Fleet Services in Baldwinsville, New York. Our business model has changed drastically over the years. It's our 49th year in business this year. Starting at a 3-bay gas station to our facility now that is roughly about 28,000 square feet with a collision center and then our service center as well that we have here. It's been my only job my whole life. I've worked here since I was a kid alongside with my father. And I became full-time here in 1998 when I graduated from Canisius College up in Buffalo. And my roles have changed, starting being very nervous to, at that time we used to sell cars. We had a gas station, we towed, we had a variety of different things, but, being kind of a shy and unknowingly of what to do to growing to being the leader and owner of the business, 30, almost 28 years later. So,
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like quite a journey too. And I wonder if we could kind of, well, let's start with how young were you when you started just to be around the shop? How often was your dad bringing you to the shop? Was that like you were like 6 years old?
yeah, 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I'd come on weekends or in the summertime. I'd come in the summer. I'd do little odds and, he'd make me clean or do different things. I had a little mini bike. I'd whip around. Yeah, I remember him yelling at, because I'd whip around go around the gas pumps with my mini bike, and he'd come out and yell at me, and because I'd afraid I'd get hit by a car through there. But it started with that. It started with cleaning. Cleaning. Father always told me I had to learn all the skills. I didn't have to be a master at all of them, but I needed to understand everything. And I'm not a technician by trade, I've never done a brake job in my life. But I understand it. I've watched, he really just really pressed of understanding. So it started from the bare bones bottom of cleaning and, sweeping floors, organizing,
Right.
and starting from that point.
Okay. And your college degree
Business.
was business. Okay. And after college, you were then full-time, year round, not just summertime and whatnot. And,
Yeah, full time.
and at that point in 98, 99, did I get this right? You were
I
a
did.
collision shop, a gas station.
So in 98, we had a 6-bay. It was in the picture we shared of our gas station. We had 6 service bays. We had a convenience store with 4 gas pumps with a small convenience store, and we had towing and we had car sales. That's what we were in at that point, 1998.
Okay. All right. What percentage of the business was car sales? Do you recall?
Not much at that time. It was,
Okay.
maybe we'd have very small inventory to what we grew it to.
Right. Right. And a lot of times it was probably customer cars that were that you'd been working on, or those.
Yeah, we buy them at auction, do different things where you can make find cars you can make a decent margin on, and it worked out well.
Okay. All right. So when did you stop the car sales?
September of 2020. So I had grew
Wow,
that.
recently.
Yeah, so we had grew that grew up, I was a one man show with that. So that business grew from having 2 to 3 cars to where I had 35 to 40 cars in inventory, and I'd sell on average. It wasn't a huge number, but I'd sell 15 to 17 cars a month, and it was me. I did all the sourcing, buying, and selling with that.
Okay. Okay. Why'd you stop? Why'd you get rid of it?
So it was a question. My mentor, working with me for a few years at that time, and he asked me the question. He goes, "Is selling cars the best use of your gifts?" And made my decision pretty quickly. Of the answer was no. It's not the best use of my gifts, and I quickly, within months, I sold off all our cars, and it put me down the journey of focusing more on my service business, and also gave me the space to start pursuing my executive coaching certification. It was a year and a half program, and
Okay.
started just exploring that and going down that path. So that's what started at that point.
Okay. Um, the used car business, how often were you there at like 8 o'clock at night trying to sell a car? 6 o'clock at night.
No, like 6, yeah, 6, 7. After that, I was out. I have a young family. It's more important to me. Um, I wouldn't be just
See,
hanging out here. Yeah, doing
I
that.
remember being, I guess I was like maybe 19 and maybe 18, somewhere in the late teens. And uh, my uncle Ed, who actually wasn't my uncle, he's just a family friend. Um, he made me promise that I would never sell cars. And then he told me a story about how he wasn't as close with his children as he would have liked because at 8 he didn't have his own lot. He could not determine his hours. He worked at a dealership, and so he was there at 9 o'clock at night, 10, and sometimes till 10, trying to wrap up the paperwork. And so that it was really interesting. He really pressed hard. He said, "Promise me you'll never do that." I'm like, "Okay, I'll probably make some money at selling cars, but okay, I won't do that. I promise."
To
So,
add to add to that, we had 5 tow trucks. We had a huge, our territory on the New York State Thruway was quite large. We had, geez, probably an 18-mile area on the Thruway, which we had, and I remember I was reading my son a book one night, and it's dangerous. Yeah, I remember I was reading my son a book one night. He was probably 2 or 3 at the time, and it was like dawned on me. It's like, why are we doing this? And I tracked my number. Towing was a very good business for us for a number of years, and it changed the amount of towing we were doing, and it still brought in a fair amount of work. But I remember sitting there and I'm like, I don't want my father getting in a tow truck ever again, nor do I want to get into a tow truck and put my life on the line for it is dangerous when you're on the side of the road on the throughway. So I talked to my father and I said, Dad, we're done with this. And my father, you're always worried about what you're losing, what you're towing in. But we were able to quickly recover from that, not recover, but to replenish that by growing our business, by putting more time into what mattered. 'Cause we had multiple profit centers. When I got out of towing, we had our gas station, we had our collision center, we had towing, I had car sales, and I had service.
yeah.
So we didn't do anything great, it
And,
just
and I like that diversity. I like the
yeah,
diversity of income. I like from that perspective alone. I like that. But it's you just hit on it, didn't you? When you're spread that many different ways, it goes back to the question that your mentor asked. What are your superhero traits? What are your gifts, right? And where are your strong points? I forget how he said it, but where are your, is this what you want to be doing? Is this the best? There it was. Is this the best use of your time? And uh, uh, I would argue that the best use of your time at 7:30 at night is reading to your 4-year-old, not picking up a car. Now, that's easy to say if you can replace your revenue, right? And that's also part of that question. I get that it's got to be a balance, and you better have a plan. You can't just say, "Okay, I'm not doing this anymore," because like you better have a plan afterwards. And so, what was that plan like? You said, "All right, we're not going to do this anymore. This is X dollars. Dad, here's how we're going to make it up."
yeah. So, I didn't have a definite plan, but what I did know is that I didn't want to do it anymore.
Okay.
And I really didn't care what the money was. It's not like it was that
Wow.
it wasn't that impactful to where, we're going to be scraping to stay in business. It helped, but I didn't care what it was. I was over it and I was ready to move forward with it. And that's kind of how I've made my decisions, even with used cars. I mean, we're profitable. We weren't like raking in the dollars doing it. But when I sat in and I analyzed, okay, I'm spending all this time. And what ended up happening is by getting rid of the time I invested in used cars, I poured into my team. I was able that besides getting out of it was able to pour myself into the team, lead the team to where we transformed the culture, transformed our whole operation, whole production team. If I didn't have the time to do that properly, it would have never happened if I was continually to sell used cars because I would not have had the time. And that decision allowed me to be where I'm sitting today. We've our gross profit dollars, our net profit dollars, the way that our business operates, my involvement into the day to day, and my ability to launch level 5 leadership coaching consulting and go into a whole new business is all a result of those decisions of getting out of towing, getting out of the body shop, and getting out of the gas business for
Okay.
us. Yeah.
And that all happened in 2020.
It happened not all in 20, it happened over a period of time,
So can
a
you give
period
me
of
the
5
breakdown?
years. I'm gonna give you
Give
a
me the
period
breakdown. In
of yeah,
1998, you were all those things. In 2005, what was it?
2015, we leased the gas station, I'm sorry, we leased the collision center,
Okay.
and within a year, I leased the gas station,
Okay.
and then around it's all within about 2 years. I forgot the year we got out of towing. It was somewhere in that same period where
Well, we can look back to your son's age and do the math, right? When was he 3?
yeah, so it was 14 years ago. That's
Okay.
when it was. So,
Okay.
when we got out of that, so say 2000, so 10, 2005, so 2004, early 2000s.
So towing exited first, and then the
Towing,
collision,
yeah,
then the gas,
towing was
and
first,
then the car
leased the gas
sales.
station,
Hmm.
leased the body shop, and
Yeah.
then got out of car sales.
Yeah. Okay. Huh. And that was kind of the which one of those was it when you exited the towing, or was it when you exited the car sales that really opened your eyes to what you can do by focusing on service and your team and your
It was
culture and the number
car
of cars that you?
sales. Car sales was the last piece because car sales the amount of time I spent at home sourcing, I didn't go to auctions. I was buying remotely for a good period of time. I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed looking for gems, I enjoyed it. I was able to do really well. And what helped that decision too was COVID. Um, Everything changed. Inventory for a guy like me, the whole process changing. I used to be able to, I do really well with European cars, so I'd buy directly from BMW, Audi, Volkswagen, Toyota. But you'd go to their platforms and you'd have hundreds or thousands of cars to where when COVID hit, and then even today you go look, I go to a BMW Group Direct website. I used to be able to choose from 15, 1600 cars to where now you can have 150, 200. And so it just changed. And in the timing, the decisions, everything worked hand in hand to how the environment changed for a guy like me, the way that I sold cars.
Okay. All right. Well, I kind of like that. I mean, it was a difficult year for so many people. And I kind of like the idea that, it caused you to change, and that change was for the good. And so, you know, I in an attempt to just kind of have a positive outlook that year, I regularly would sit down and say, okay, so what are the positives that happened as a result? Right. And so, I mean, I think there were a lot of families that ended up with more family time because their parents weren't, an hour away at the office for until late, and so there were, yeah, I think that, it's nice that the human condition is able to try to make good of difficult situations. And I like that a lot. And so anyway,
Can I add to something there, Brad?
please.
We were blessed. Our industry is blessed because we were an essential business. we were impacted, but we were able to still operate. And, my message to my team right from the beginning is we're not going to survive here. We're going to thrive, and we're going to figure out how to thrive no matter what the scenario was. And we were, as an organization, we went nearly almost our company. So when COVID hit, we went almost 2 years. It was a year and 3 quarters till someone actually got COVID in our business. We had such regimented policies, procedures, and we thrived during COVID. And I was able to take advantage of a lot of opportunities that were presented to us during that period of time. And again, so much of that was the benefit of being in our industry that was an essential business,
Yeah.
through that.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you were able to. So I don't hear too many shops who are just like, no big deal. It didn't really matter. I hear two stories. I hear those that actually figured out a way to thrive during it, and those that were really struggling and are still recouping 5 years later from the bruises that happened during it. And so I hear both, and I find that interesting. I don't know. I feel like there's, uh, I like I like people, and I like thinking about and studying people, and I kind of would like to spend some time just kind of analyzing like what was different. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, what I found was and this is very anecdotal because I don't have mass numbers. I just have from conversations that I've had. It appears, and I don't know what your marketing was like in 2020, but it appears that those who had a better marketing system in place continued to do well, and those that had none, that lived on 100% referrals, just word of mouth, were the ones that were more likely to struggle during that period. I found that interesting, because I think the word of mouth, and maybe it was because the word of mouth changed with the mask. I don't know, but I mean, maybe it pushed more towards online, and that's a very likely scenario. But I just I think there's also a human element to it as far as like personality or approach, right? Some people, when they get hit, they go down. Others say, I didn't go down yet. So
Yeah,
sorry.
to
My
add,
mind just went to the Monty Python skit where from the Holy Grail, and the guy's like, I'm not dead yet. And so,
yeah,
do you know the one I'm talking about?
yeah.
Okay.
I've seen that little bit of a skit. Yeah,
So, anyway, okay. So, you poured into the team a little bit more in 2005, a little bit more in 2015, a little bit more in 2016, and then in 2020. Yes, it was also COVID, but yes, it was also the exit of car sales, and that's when you really poured into the team and developed processes in place. And why don't you talk a little bit about how you uh, did you have any processes documented prior to 2020? Here's how we're going to approach the customer. Here's how we're going to handle this.
we did, but we had it, but it wasn't. Was it followed properly? Was it? And that's been a big area of growth, is the follow up within our organization. We had a lot of great processes, great documents, but that's where it ended. We had them, but we didn't use them. We didn't use them properly. Our culture at that time, we didn't have a culture that lived and breathed them, that understood the why, that understood why it's important to follow a service advisor's checklist or follow
Okay,
up.
so all that you just said is very, very nice, and it fits nicely. Someone could crochet it and put it on the wall, and it would look nice. But let's get into the details of how you change the culture to, like, what does that mean to
Yep.
make Harry start paying attention to this document? He's been doing it this way for the last 15 years. He's not making any changes,
Yep.
right?
It's
And
it
I'm
starts
sorry,
with
forgive
our
me if you actually have a Harry at your shop. I
No, I
didn't.
don't. No, Harry.
Okay, good.
But it started with our approach. So everything started with. I'm going to back up 1 year. So in 2019, I went to my first ever super conference with ATI, and
Okay.
a gentleman spoke. His name was Brian Dodge, and I
Okay.
remembered him vividly because he said something that stuck with me, and we've developed a friendship from this. I reached out to him after it was such moving to me, but he said, "How can we give you more of what you want when what you already have isn't enough?" And that there at the time, I recognized with that statement, and I didn't understand it fully, but how can I give you more of what you want? And I needed to define what I wanted and not recognizing what I already have and how grateful of everything that I have and in being goal oriented and driven, you just don't, you never think you're good enough. You just keep moving on to the next. You keep raising the bar and you keep moving forward. So that was that was a really big, a big change, a pivotal point in my life to where I made another step. And then the following year, meeting my mentor, which we got into, um, actually, I'm sorry, I get my dates mixed up. I met my mentor, yeah, following a year later from there, and going to where we started working on vision, mission, and values and living and breathing them, and working on direction, alignment, and commitment, where you have to have all three. You can't have two. I can't have, when I started the process, yeah, I had a direction. I didn't have alignment throughout the organization, and I didn't have commitment throughout the entire organization. So how do I do that? So it started with developing our vision and mission and values and really working through those. Me and my mentor worked on them for months, and they're not a paragraph, they're precise, and they had to be tested. They had to be tested for people making poor decisions. So our vision, for example, is we're driven to earn customers for life. So that was tested, that was vetted to where if I had an advisor making a decision, well, it's going to be a very simple decision on what you're going to recommend for somebody because we are driven to earn customers for life as our vision. So we first had to develop our vision, mission, and values, which I did. Then I had to memorize. I remember we were working on them. We're months into this. And he goes, what's your mission? And he goes, I'm scrambling for my papers. He's like, you ain't living and breathing it. He's like, and I said, okay, touche. I will never forget. Like if I don't memorize them, if I don't live and breathe them, nor will my organization. Our vision, mission, values are very simple. And so it started with that. And then in 2021, it was December of 21, I made the introduction of what they were. And I said to my team, there will never be performance or revenue that will ever get in front of my vision, mission, values ever again. And that meant for people, because I had people in my organization who were very good performers, but they didn't fit in the company who we have today. And I knew it. I just was afraid to part ways with people who are talented. You have very good, I had my highest level technician, my highest producing technician, and one of my highest producing service advisors. That following December, within a matter of 5 weeks, I've terminated all three of them because I knew at that time was that I can't train empathy. I can't train kindness. I can't train my core attributes. They either have it or they don't. I can train people's skills. Or
Did you try putting a tattoo on their arm? Customers for life. Like
no, no. But it started, and you ask, so then it's telling stories. So the
okay.
first year we're telling stories. That is our vision, mission, values is our
Wait, to whom are you telling stories?
to my team, to my leaders, to my team.
So you're telling the stories to them to try to get in their head why a customer for life matters and how you made customer for life in the past.
Yeah, you keep
Okay.
giving examples, and then I reward. Right. Again, it's our filter. I look for those, now supporting with my three leaders, we look for the behaviors that we want. So you reward those behaviors. So when one of the practices that we
By
do,
raising salary or by giving them little perks?
nothing to do with money, it's behaviors of recognizing when they are living and breathing our vision, mission, values, we are praising those behaviors and and building them up on that aspect of it. And
Okay.
if they're in alignment with that, which my team is, the word, I don't have a word for it, but they're they're committed. They're aligned and they're committed. And it provides there's a sense of security mentally, right? There's a sense of security of mental safety, physical safety, emotional safety. And we provide that in our organization, which is all built on the foundation of our vision, mission, and values.
So something you just said made me think of I've come across plenty of shops who make comments about how it's frustrating. You train somebody and then they are fully trained and they go to the next shop, right? You bring on a new person, a level C tech, and you actually train them. And now they're a level B or level A even, and then they just go to the next shop.
But why they
You-
go to
you're-
the next shop?
and so, but something you just said made me think. If you are having turnaround, tell me if you think this is a correct statement. If a shop is having a lot of turnaround turnover of employees, then maybe their mission and values aren't crafted and communicated adequately. Because I would think that if a brand new person coming on gets into the mindset of this is my values and my mission as well, at least from 9 to 5, then maybe they're going to be a little bit more attached to you. They're going to feel more connected to you and less likely to turn over somewhere else. I mean, what do you think of that statement? If you have a too high of a turnover, then maybe you don't have as defined of a values and mission statement. And even if you have it defined, you definitely don't have it communicated effectively, embedded into your team.
I agree. I agree. It's the foundation. So when it comes to turnover, the turnover that happens in our organization is from us. People don't leave our company. People who leave our company, it's they don't fit. They glow, and we can do the best we can in interviewing. We all try. I think we do a very good job, but we don't nail it, and we move so quickly when somebody doesn't fit. They feel it almost feels dirty when somebody is in our organization that doesn't fit in our culture because it just sticks out. Everybody feels it. And we move quick with that because we worked too hard to get to the point where we are today. And I really don't care how talented the person is technically. We move on quick when we bring somebody in who doesn't fit. After we can see that within a period, whatever that mean, I wouldn't have a problem terminating somebody in a short period of time. And terminates the wrong word, but just we're not a fit together. I have no problem doing that. I don't get I'm not going to get hurt by me not failing in the interview process. Um, I don't let that stop me or have
I'm
ego
sorry.
towards that.
I'm kind of smiling because I agree with you wholeheartedly, and you're absolutely right. Once you know an employee is not a fit, you've got to move on. You can't stick it out. You've got to move on, right? But the way you're framing it, yeah, you failed in the interview process, right? It's not their shortcoming. It's your shortcoming. It just reminds me of the cliche breakup of girlfriends and boyfriends, right? It's not you, it's me. But sorry.
But we make
But
it
here it's legit, right?
we
So
make
that's
it
what we're
clear.
talking about.
We make it clear. I mean, there's 90-day probation. We make it clear, and it's right from the get go. We've worked too hard to get to where we are today, and no one will put a dent in that. And that's carried with our leaders, with our team. And when you ask the question of, yeah, I developed this guy, then he just leaves. Well, the question is, well, why is he leaving? What are you missing? What questions are you not asking to find out what these people need or what are their challenges? What are their struggles? The problem when you talked about too, I use SL2 leadership, and SL2 leadership it's a there's four areas of that. And so when you develop people, it goes from style one, S1 style of leadership to what we call competency, which is the developmental level. So you got D1, S1, which okay, say I'm the owner, say I'm the shop foreman, and I'm working with a technician. A D1, S1 is okay. I don't know yet what this gentleman or woman can do, so it's going to be my way. I'm the foreman. It's my way. As I can see competency, we start moving up to where now it's a D2, S2, where it's my way, but now I'm going to take some input from you, Brad, because I want to learn more about you. I want to see where you are. I want to see how you think. So I'm going to ask you questions. We're going to learn more about each other to where we get up to the point where now I have more trust in you. I see your competency. Now we move to what's called the D3, S3, which it's your way, Brad, but with my input, to where then we move up to a D4, S4, to where I trust you delegation. And the problem that happens, and I made this until I discovered this process, was that I would do S1, S1 D1, S2 D2, but then I would skip 3 and go right to 4, or I'd be at a D1 S1 and I'd see somebody's pretty competent, and I'm like, oh yeah, they know what they're doing, and I skip the 2 steps, and now 2 months go down the road, and now I'm like disappointed because they're not meeting my expectations. But I really did a really poor job. I did a really poor job in identifying my expectations, and there's a lot of uncommunicated expectations that come into play because you assume, or I assume, that they understand it or they know it, but they don't. And that's a massive shift we made in our organization, and people don't leave our organization.
And what's it called? What was that process called again?
So it's called SL2 leadership. There's a book that was introduced to me. It's Ken Blanchard. It was called. He has a lot of different books. I believe, the 1 Minute Manager. You ever heard those 1 Minute Manager? They got a lot of different versions of it. They had the 1 Minute Manager meets leadership, and that's where it was introduced to me. Where I read that, and it was like a light bulb. I said, "Yeah, this is exactly." I work well with process, and it was a leadership process, and it was at a period of time where I was questioning whether I was a good leader or not. And when this book was shared to me by my director of operations, Kathy, and when I read it, it just was like, yeah, this is what it gave me. It gave me a framework. It gave me a process, and I look through. It's a filter, so you can look through that filter. When I give an example of, I have 7 technicians, and let's talk about shop cleanliness. I have some technicians who I'm a D4S for, who are very organized, very clean. And I've got some in the middle, and I've got some that need a lot of work. You can't look at them all the same way. So the ones that I look at that are not at my level, we're at a D1S one. You take direction from your leader until we see that you're doing what we're looking for. And then that's where the time comes in, where then we can start splashing in, reward them based upon behaviors that we see. And you got to look for it, because we always, typically you always look for what they're not doing right. We have to look for what they're doing instead of what they're not doing right, to what they are doing right.
And
Oh,
interestingly enough, what you're talking about right now, like you're not implementing SL2 um, if you're also turning wrenches. If you are working on your shop, in your shop instead of on your shop, I don't know that you're going to have time to, because it sounds like it doesn't sound like a 2-minute process. It sounds pretty detailed as far as, what the steps are to try to, navigate or kind of guide your employees through and develop each one. That's what it sounds like. And I just did a quick search. It's SL and then the Roman numeral, so 2 I's, 2. You can do that Google search for SL2 that way. It is Blanchard. And it looks like you can go to blanchard.com to go check out that and read about that a little bit more. We're going to talk a little bit more towards the end of this episode about your level 5 coaching program. If a shop wanted to take your guidance on how to implement SL2, would that be something that you'd be allowed to do or help them with?
oh, absolutely. I love everything about leadership. I love sharing. I love, you know, on my website, I have my taglines is that, I spent a lot of time thinking of how to put in all the pieces of what mean to me. And so I say we lead with awareness, we grow with confidence, and we transform with purpose. And I'm addicted to transformation. I love going through personal transformation in all different aspects of my life, and I love helping people grow and lead them to and transformation is not just in one aspect of life. There's many different aspects where you can transform your life. And that is something I truly love doing every single day. It's in alignment with my purpose. It's in alignment with my main goal in life. I get up every day. There's not, everything I do in my life is in alignment with those two items. And
Okay. All right, nice. Nice. All right, so we just talked about the retaining side of, I mean, yes, hiring and then going through the process of developing that person, right? And if you guys wanted to listen to other podcasts or other episodes that we've had about these topics, episodes 17 and 19, I believe, are 2 that talk in great detail about about hiring, about the hiring processes. And so those might be worth checking out. And then I want to say it was all the way back in like episode like 6, and maybe 8. No, I want to say it was 6 and 4, where we actually talked about hiring and retaining top talent. And so again, more episodes for you to go back and check out on this Garage Trip podcast. But by all means, yeah, I think it's probably trouble if you're trying to do it all on your own. Like getting a coach and kind of getting that guidance seems prudent to me. Kind of keep you not just accountable to the transformation, but also, make sure that you're asking the right questions of yourself to make sure that you're transforming into what your vision is. And if you don't have a vision, then that probably is step 1. Where do you want to be, right?
to add something to Brad, what you said of like, why people leave, and So SL2 leadership, vision, mission, values, you can have them all in theory. But if you truly do not care and love your team and love the people and want to see them succeed and see them do better than you, that is the difference. You can have the best coach in the world. You can have all these tools as a business owner, but as that owner, because you can't fake being authentic. People will sniff you out if when you're truly authentic as a business owner and truly care for each person in your organization. And then you add on top of this SL2 leadership. You add on top of this very strong vision, mission, values. You add on top all these other tools that you use to do that. Then you have the secret sauce that's going to give you success.
Yeah. I've actually worked with some shops who they're well, one guy in particular, he used to work for corporate America, and then he went and bought and owned a shop. And he was hearing these types of things from another shop owner on this podcast, and he flinched because it sounded so much like large corporate America. And I think it's important. I also worked for large corporate America at one point, and it was uh, it the authenticity is what was missing. Now that I think about it, that's why it was so. That is such nonsense. That is such hubbub, or whatever, however you want to phrase it. Right? You throw in your inappropriate word here, but I think the authenticity is where it got lost.
It is the highest resonating frequency. It's higher than love. It's higher than being kind. It's off, being authentic, being truly who you are. I always hate the term, fake it till you make it. It's because you're not being
Right.
authentic, and
Yeah, man.
living and breathing that in life, it eludes a different energy.
I once was managing a salesperson many, many, many years ago, and uh, we came out of a meeting where I was and he was new, and I looked at him. I was like, "Why did you say that? That wasn't remotely accurate." And he said, "Fake it till you make it." He said, "You just like they're not going to find out. You just make this stuff up so that you sound like you know what you're talking about." And I'm like, "No, no," because I'm a truth always person. That's always been kind of my thing. So I had to fire him, and that wasn't easy because I'd already put in all this time. And how did I miss something so obvious as "fake it till you make it" doesn't fit me? And no. Anyway, long story short, he became a politician. And um,
Can I, can I,
true story, by the way. He ran for state legislature and was in there for years. And has since retired. So I'm not going to mention his name. It's not necessary, but it's just no joke. He left me and ran for office.
if I can share, I can share. I want to share adding upon that. So that has been a huge, huge unlocking for me self personally and also professionally, was the work that I've done over the last 5 years allowed me to unlock, because I am not, I hate the term fake it till you make it. I will not go out and say we can do something when we can't and hope we can do it. I did not have the team that could go out. Like we added business development a year and a half ago, and so now we got boots on the ground that are going to grow. We have three different programs. We have a straight fleet program. I have a partnership program, which goes to other repair shops who may not be capable to do certain type of repairs and have technology.
Are you
We
talking
have
about ADOS or something else?
ADAS, diagnostics, certain type. We have a very large alignment machine. If things that they cannot do, we have a partnership program, and then I have an advantage program, which targets the employees of the fleet companies. So we've just started going down this path, and we're on pace to double our fleet revenue again this year compared to last year. Because I'm not in a big metropolis. I feel growth and good faster growth is going to come into this market that I feel is underserved in our community.
All
But
right, I've got some questions there.
yeah,
So you said boots on the ground. Do you have one person in each of those venues, one person for fleet, one person for Advantage, one person for.
One person right now. This department will grow. I have
Oh,
one.
but they're doing all three. They're talking to fleets. They're talking to the fleet
You can
employees to
target.
grow their
You can go
retail,
target. Yep.
and they're talking to repair shops.
Yep.
So I want to. There's a lot of people here that are trying to play and figure out the ADAS picture of things, and so I like your idea of the partnership, because there are also plenty of shops who recognize that um, they don't have the space or the wherewithal, and a lot of times it's collision shops that actually don't even have some of those things. But I suspect that it's entirely possible that in the next several years, the repair side are going to be affected by it a little bit more often, because it's my understanding that some of the calibrations can get knocked out of alignment even without an accident. They can start to phase out of. I actually read an article recently that said they can actually, after about a 5-year period or 7-year period, they might not be as calibrated as they were when they came off the dealership. And so people are not necessarily aware yet, as of today in 2025, that they might need to have their calibrations checked just to make sure that the auto park is actually parking correctly. And so I think that's coming. And I think there's going to be more and more shops that either have it or need to plug into a local partnership. So can you talk to me a little bit about that, what that partnership program looks like, and how that process is going with you knocking on the doors of?
Yep. So it's starting slow. We actually had our.
Okay.
It starts slow because you go into there. You typically go into another shop, and it's not meant to go there to say, "Hey, we're better than you." We're here to provide a service. If we can help you, that would be great. And so when Evo, who handles our business development, he goes in. Some people greet him nicely, and some people have no interest to talk to him. But the beautiful part about him is, he's been in sales his whole life, and he loves it. He because it's a passion for him to go back. But it's starting slow. We've actually had our first. We had
Oh,
two.
by the way, real quick, a point for Evo. Little tip that I've learned from my old days of pounding door to door, physical knocking on doors. Make sure you go on the worst weather days, because people are often a little bit more compassionate about bringing you in, putting a blanket on you, warming you up. Where if it's beautiful, if it's 60 degrees or 65 outside, they're just pissed off that they're not the one walking around outside like that's their job. And so go on the hurricane season is a great time to pound the pavement for those who are looking to. And I joke with you, we kind of laugh about it, but it's so true. I would get so many more appointments being brought in. Don't bring an umbrella. Be soaked. Go. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were saying he loves it. That's it's authentic for him. He appreciates going out and talking with people. So that's a good fit. All right. So he's knocking on the door. Some others are saying, get up, get lost. Others are saying, come on in. And sometimes it's about timing, right?
Timing, and you keep showing up and just saying hi. I'm not bringing him stuff. We're just being a presence, and it's
Oh, you're not doing swag yet?
not yet. No, we just
Okay.
kind of just showing up. I have really nice flyers that we made. I don't, I did something that's really simple. A lot of fleet, I've been in my group. 5 people have these really beautiful folders with all this information,
Mm-hmm.
and even people don't look at any of that. Like I've consolidated everything is one sheet, and I did my sheets. They're 14. They're 14 by 8.5. So if they are put on a desk, they stick out. So they're
Okay.
not going to get mixed up in your normal 8 by 11, 8.5 by whatever the size is for.
Okay.
But
8 by 11 and a half, or 8.5 by 11. There you go.
so, so we're getting this year really. He touched on people, and he would say hello, and then months go by, and we're happy with where we are, but things change, and
Yeah.
it's just that you're the first person that comes to mind, and it's happening. I mean, the business is growing, and we're just starting. We're just scratching the surface
Okay.
of where we're at with them.
All right. So you haven't signed anyone up yet for your partnership program.
No sign up. It's just if you need the service, we can either do drop off,
You're
pick up,
available.
get the car.
All right.
here.
So your partnership program isn't some sort of formal thing
No.
where
No
is there any
contract.
kind of revenue sharing
No.
or okay.
No, nothing like that.
This is a service. We're going to provide it to you at a wholesale level pricing, potentially, or maybe a slight discount, and you do with it what you want. We're billing you, you're billing the customer.
Not even so much the price. They're just happy. The people that we've talked to and the handful that we've done, they're just happy to be able to get the service done and not have to go to the car dealer, go to the manufacturer. They're
Mm,
grateful for
okay.
that because the
Okay.
complexity that comes with that, and then the communication, the lack of communication.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So maybe that's the lead. Avoid the dealer. Avoid the dealerships. Okay. All right. Fun. And how long have you been doing that now? How long is the boots on the ground?
Year.
A year. Okay. It is early then.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of times people don't realize that they set this up and then they're like 2 months. I don't have any customers yet in this. Well, yeah, that's this
My
is brand like you. This, even still, like ADOS in of itself is still relatively a misunderstood uh, vertical. So yeah, is the ADOS part of the tenant? I mean, so just so people understand, you have the service, you're focused on the service, but the
my tenant, yeah, he's our number one ADOS customer in the body shop.
so that's what I was going to ask. Were you
Yeah.
using him for ADOS, or is it the other way around?
Oh,
It's the other way around.
he utilizes us for ADOS. We have the equipment.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's interesting. Okay, I was kind of expecting you to say that that's how you're leveraging the ADOS because you have the neighbor, but no, you're the one that took the time to make sure that that bay was perfect and the setup was perfect and all the different measurements that go along with it are all in place. Okay. Um, when did you decide to do that?
I purchased that a little over 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, but I went with the Altel system.
Okay. And you're happy with it.
Extremely. Yeah, very happy.
Okay. All right, good. Um, and huh. All right, let's talk a little bit about your coaching side of things. It's interesting. You contracted to expand. I mean, think about it, right? You first said no more towing, no more car sales, no more, collision, no more gas, no more convenience store. And now you're just focused on service and you're focused on service and you dialed it into the point where things are working. It's not that you can just be an absentee sitting on the beach, but things are working and they're not requiring you to be there 72 hours a week. And because your passion for putting into people, you've launched Level 5. Is that L5 Consulting? What was the webpage?
It's l5leadership.com,
Okay.
and the business is Level 5 Leadership Coaching and Consulting.
Okay. Level 5 leadership coaching and consulting. Okay, good. And so talk to me about what that journey looks like and maybe talk to me a little bit about how like the type of repair shop owner that should be reaching out to you because they would be a good fit. We talked about that, right? Some people they need to just go into more of a generic program because of where they're at, and others because of where they're at, they need to have more of a program like yours. So why don't you tell a little bit about your L5 leadership coaching business and then tell me about that repair shop that would fit you. Go ahead.
So Level 5 Leadership it came to me. So Level 5 has a meaning. So if people who study John Maxwell has a book, Level 5 Leaders, and Level 5 leaders are the pinnacle of leaders. They're leaders that are driven by purpose and legacy. Um, if they inspire trust, character, humility. They create lasting, and with Maxwell is creating multiplying impact. And then when I went through my coaching program, they had this, it was called energy leadership. And they had this, there was a, there was 7 levels of energy, which they called, and give you an example, level 1 energy is fear and victim, where and level 2 energy is conflict, to where level 5 energy in an organization is a win-win mindset. It's seeing challenges as opportunities. It's collaboration, trust. It's everybody wins. It's seeking shared success amongst the everybody in the organization. It's an area of energy where I want my company to resonate, right? You work your way up to level 7 energy, which I would say is like you're in the zone. And you have in your people, there's not a positive or negative energy. You fluctuate through those energies through different circumstances in life. So one of the things I do in my coaching too, like for instance, let's talk about level 2 energy of conflict. Well, what what creates that angst as the as the business owner, as the leader? What creates conflict? What creates you to feel that energy? And when you start looking into your organization, you start recognizing, well, yeah, when I analyze myself, I said, well, yeah, we're really lacking because my processes are weak here, or I'm not leading, I'm not doing as a leader certain things because it's creating the cert not having things in place or not having the foundation the way it needs to be created chaos, created conflict. And I personally just don't want to deal with that in life anymore. Like I streamline, when I talk about like streamlining my businesses, I want to make the biggest impact personally in the shortest period of time when I work with people. I'm not looking, if I work with people for 15 years, that's great. If I work with them for a month, that's great too. I want to be able to make impact. That's my most important thing. But equally goes of my time. I want my time to be impactful and I want to generate the maximum amount of revenue I can for my time, for my experience, and also provide 10 times that value to what I'm getting paid to do that. Now, the reason for that is, 2023, as I was going to just tell you a little bit more about myself, I had gotten, I had a bout of kidney stones, and in that process, they had found a mass on my pancreas. And at that same time, my father got sick, and unknowingly, my father had terminal cancer, which took his life in February
This year or last year?
24.
Okay. All right.
And
That's not easy. Take a moment. That's not easy. Drink some water.
I'm good.
I'm
I'm
serious.
good.
I saw you have a thermos there. Drink some water.
Saying it, you got to get through it sometimes. But in that
Yeah.
process, they discovered that my mass was precancerous on my pancreas. So last year, everything was put on pause for me. I was contingency planning in the event that things didn't go well for me. I had to make sure that this business would continue and protect my family. And so thankfully, I was so focused on that last year. So in last November, mid-November, I had pancreas. They removed 2/3 of my pancreas. They were able to remove that, and I was basically at stage 0 cancer, which was very fortunate. And then I got back to work in January, and with it, I've just been sprinting since the beginning of this year of just get moving forward on what I had to put a pause on. So, getting back to working and getting back focused and then launching level 5 leadership this past May and doing, I just want to do what I'm destined to do. I want to public speak. I want to do so many different things. And I also want to have a very successful automotive repair business that's going to be led and driven by my leaders and key people in the
Okay.
organization.
Okay. I like that. I like that. People, if you're listening to this podcast, don't wait until you have such a life experience that Lou just explained to wake up and take the next step and build a life that actually has a legacy attached to it. Do it now. Don't wait. Right. So, that's, and Lou, I don't think you waited either. I think you were actually on your way. It just, this dialed up the speed and the focus,
Yeah, it
or
was
dialed in the speed and focus.
extremely helpful for me because, it's perspective. I choose to, I'm grateful. I look how lucky I am I worked every day, you know, worked every day with my father for 25 plus years until he retired. And, time is not renewable. And I just don't, that aspect of my life, recognizing if it wasn't from a circumstance of me having a kidney stone, the likelihood of me being alive in 5 years would be not high for me. And it's a circumstance which, again, you look at that moment in life and I said, well, every day for me is important. I don't have time to waste and I have a lot of stuff that I want to do. And what it allowed me to, the growth I made this year was one, defining what my definition of success was, because it was muddied for a good period of time because I just didn't define what that was. And, one's definition of success is based upon one's perception. So when I say muddied is, when we all want to get better. We get in, we join different 20 groups, we do different things, get ourselves around different business owners, and unfortunately the measurement of success is, well, how much revenue do you do? And the reality is that you, no different than social media, what I end up finding is all you hear is people's highlight reels. You never really hear the complete truth. You hear bits and pieces of something that's a highlight, and then you look at yourself and say, "Well, I ain't good enough," or why am I not doing this, or why am I not doing that? But I come to realize that most of the people that they share the stuff weren't telling me the truth, or I heard bits and pieces of stuff,
They were,
and you get
they were
that
like you said,
information,
excuse me,
right?
they were telling you the highlight reel. They weren't trying to intentionally deceive, but they weren't telling you the whole story. And something else that you said there, man, it's a dangerous road to it. It's a dangerous road to go down, right? It's to compare yourself to the shop next door, because you don't. They're on a different storyline, and so, you know, you want to learn a lesson from them, great. If you want to have some ideas and share some ideas with them, and get shared ideas back to you, that's great. But you got to focus on your storyline, and that's something that's worth repeating over and over again, right? You got to focus on your storyline, not just how you stack up against what's the cliche, the Joneses. Don't worry about Jones. They're nice people and all, I'm sure. Worry about your storyline.
Yeah. I really don't care how much money somebody has, and never did. And that's where my struggle was, right? I'm curious, well, how do you become successful? How do you do what you do? But that wasn't a motivator for me. And then I came aware that, not saying insecurity, but my gremlin, the inner voice that talks to me, was that you ain't good enough. You're not good enough. So with help from my mentor, we have three things I focused on. And you open up I have them right on my monitor here. I have them when you open up my medicine cabinet in the morning. It's get over not being good enough, stop playing it safe, and take a risk today. And what I mean by taking a risk is doing something that's just out of my comfort zone, having a conversation I wouldn't have had, being on a podcast, or doing whatever
See,
it may be.
see, and I want to earlier in this discussion, we both agreed that fake it till you make it is awful, is debunked. It's a wrong mentality. But somewhere, someone is hearing this podcast and saying, wait a minute, isn't he doing that by looking in the mirror and saying that to himself? Isn't he doing that and I think there's a difference between recalibrating and honing in on your focus and faking it until you make it, right? And I think the obvious difference is in you go out there and you say, sure, we can fix this car, no big deal. Right. Or sure, we can do an ADAS calibration even if you've never bought the software or the equipment, right? Or you didn't actually align your bay and all those types of things. I think that's where the fake it till you make it is, where you're just out and out, like not even being honest and truthful, not just with yourself, but with others. And I think what we're talking about here is, like I said, it's kind of like, it's it's very similar to listening to certain music for the athlete to get pumped up to go out into the field, right? Would you agree that there's a,
So,
what do you think?
yep. So,
Let's help people who
yeah.
are curmudgeons and listening to this and think and don't understand the difference between fake it till you make it and what you're doing. And I've done that too, by the way.
Yep.
So let's talk about that.
Yep. So when I say get over not being good enough, the way that it's interpreted to me, again, going back to being authentic, going back to being committed to my personal growth, it would only mean something to me if I actually, if I, if I lived, if I lived it, and if I lived it to my standard, and I know what that is. Like I know what that feeling, that inner conversation that I would have myself of, back in that's, as I share when we talk about this, when I talk about subconscious, who the person you speak to the most every day is yourself. It's your subconscious. You're having those conversations, but what are those conversations about? And so there'll always be a negative connotation of why you can't do something. They will always say, but how long do you want to believe it? And how long do you stay in that conversation? And that has been through coaching, through leadership, that has been able to shift to when those thoughts do come into my head. They're not in my head for long periods of time anymore, because I know what I need to do.
Yeah. And you set yourself up with some reminders to stay honed in. And But would you agree that it's more similar to that pump up music
Yeah.
that an athlete might listen to before they go out into the field?
Yeah. I want to add to that about coaching. So getting pumped up, right? So when you get pumped up, you go you harness what I say level two energy. You harness conflict. You have to find something to get you like all psyched up to get you going, right? You can do that for a period of time, but you can't do that forever. Like getting ready to I was in the powerlifting, right? So getting ready to go to a big lift, you'd think of somebody who pissed you off or whatever the scenario was to put you into a mode to get something out of you. And what I found in coaching, where I'm going to shift to coaching, is that I was coached, and I didn't realize this for a long time. I was coached through fear tactics. I was coached to telling me that this shop does X, this shop does this shop does that. But again, highlight reel of what they're doing, which ended up feeding my gremlin of not being good enough. When I became aware of that, because at first I knew what they were doing, but I said, maybe that's going to motivate me. Is that going to make me like hearing what some guy's doing that I'm not doing? Is that going to make me like make this massive shift that I'm going to automatically transform myself because I hear this shop or this guy is doing this? Well, it didn't work for me. And when I came to that realization and I removed that coach from my life. I like him as a human being, but as a coach, I recognize that I would never want to be coached like that again because that is my gremlin. For 6 years, I was being coached, who was feeding my gremlin of that I was not good enough, and it,
So I've made this statement before, and you just kind of pointed it out how important this is. But when you need a coach. B, who your coach is going to be dependent on you and your style and where you're at, and you've got to find a good fit of the platform and a good fit of the person that is going to feed feed you where you're at today. And there are graduations potentially from coach to coach. That's a possibility, and that's okay. Don't worry about that. Worry about where you're getting fed today.
and recognizing too when you're working with a client, recognizing the difference between consulting and between coaching, between therapy. Coaching as a coach, if I was coaching you sitting here, I really need to get to know who Brad is. I need to ask really empowering questions and I need to listen. I need to listen not to answer back to Brad, but I need to listen to where then I can ask the right type of questions that can provide me answers to help me really it's the self, it's the whole. That starts with the person because once you unlock their blocks or recognize what somebody's blocks are, when you talk about blocks, right? I talk about gremlins, we call them gales. You have your gremlins, which is that inner voice that talks to you. You have assumptions, interpretations, and limiting beliefs. These are all things that could provide blocks and you could have one, two, three things. And that's where the questions come in and start understanding, well, yeah, why is it your challenge leading? So as a leader of my business and I'm getting upset that I'm developing these technicians and they're just leaving my organization. Well, why are they leaving your organization? Let's dive
Yeah,
into that.
right.
And that's where asking the right type of questions. And then there's the part of,
And that's the key, right? They're like, don't just throw out, hey, it's more money.
no,
It's more money. It's more money. Well, maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to more money hadn't this happened at your organization, or maybe it was more money and you haven't been actually growing check, their paycheck, the same way that you've been growing them as an
yeah,
employee. Like they're
yeah.
I don't know, maybe there's a relationship there.
Mm,
Um, but it's a matter of asking the right questions and being honest about the full list of reasons that they may have left. Is that fair?
it's fair, and having the skill to be, I have a passion for it. So I invested 2 years of my time learning how to become a coach. So even as a business owner or leader, that is not your passion, but learning the skill of how to ask questions or learning how to, that skill in itself is invaluable as an owner, as a leader. And how far you go with it, it's up to you what your passion is. But but to me, it's been a life changing experience.
I like it. I like it. And I hope that if you're listening to this podcast, you're ready for your next life-changing experience. I'm hoping that you are ready to take your shop to the next level. I often say things like, if you're not trying to grow your shop, then you're listening to the wrong podcast. Now, I should have said that at the beginning to give you a heads up, but maybe you're still listening, and that's great. And that tells me that you actually do want to improve your shop. You do want to grow the shop. I encourage you to find a coach. I think Lou might be a worthwhile conversation for you guys to reach out. So, Lou, mention your coaching website again
Sure.
for everybody.
It's L5leadership.com. On all aspects of social, we have it as L5 Leadership CC on Instagram, Facebook. My business is new. I don't have a bunch of posting. A lot of my information will be on my website, will be on my LinkedIn, where you see my credentials, and I have a lot of information on my website that's continuing to grow. But it will be adding. I'll still be making content. Start making that stuff is coming as I build that. But as you asked the question of working with shops, I love it's my passion. I love automotive repair. I love our industry. I hope to in our industry, as I talk to my team, and I don't want to come out the right. I said, I want everybody in this organization to be respected, to be paid what they're worth. And our industry, if we are, it's one thing to act like a professional, but if you are a professional and you run your operation like a professional, the people in your business are a professional, you will be treated like a professional. So the people that come into our organization, our clients, they want a professional, and they're going to get excellent service, and we're going to charge accordingly. We're going to be a profitable business, so then I can compensate my people properly. One of the things, we had a wonderful interview today. Somebody we're going to be bringing out to our organization, late the first quarter, beginning of second quarter next year. We're adding an advisor, and one of the things I've created this commitment. I call it my commitment to you, and there's multiple bullet points in there, but it's my commitment to my team. And a lot of times, in learning culture, people say, well, culture is very important. It's almost more important. People will work for less money if you have this amazing culture. Yeah, they will for a period of time. But I feel you need to have it. You need to have all three items. You need to have a most amazing culture. You need to have a business that could, one of my commitments is that I hope to exceed the financial dreams, expectations that they ever could have imagined in that's a goal of mine, to be able to provide a place that can do that for them. And I want to have a facility. I want to have a place that has a culture, has an environment where personal growth is wanted by everyone. I want everybody to, one of my attributes is ferocious curiosity. I have 5 specific attributes that I've defined to maintain the essence of this organization in the absence of me, the absence of my father. I have those. It's very detailed of what we're looking for in anybody that joins this team.
Are you going to test the absence of you in the near future at your shop? Are you going to
Well,
test to
I
see how
have,
your team is doing?
I
You
have.
have already.
Oh, we have. We have. And I know where are areas that we're weak, and we're working on those areas. With the help of my leadership team, we're well on our way. And my involvement in the day to day is virtually nil. I
Yeah.
observe.
You were the one that started the process. You started the documentation of all the processes. That was put on your shoulders.
Yeah, a long time ago, right? And then to when I got help, you need the help
Yeah.
to get there and do it.
So we're going to be in the November of 2025 SOP shop owners panel is actually going to be a series of shop owners talking about starting that process. There are so many shops out there who have been told they need to have processes documented and for everything. And they're like, oh my gosh, like, where do I begin? That's an enormous task.
it's actually really easy now. So with Chat GPT, you make a GPT, and you can make it. You can program everything. So like when we utilize it, our my vision, mission, values, my whole document, my 5-star customer experience, my all my attributes, my direction, alignment, commitment, and how that impacts our vision, mission, values. All that is infused into my GPT. So when I need to make a process, And then there's a series of questions which help me. The leader of Mike Bennett, who works at ATI, he he had shared they were developing. He developed a GPT for making process. So you have a series of all these questions that you develop. So now when you got to make a process, you could it's so much easier than it ever was. You have this amazing tool, and if you feed it all the information, so now when we develop processes, it incorporates it's infused with our vision, mission, values, infused with our 5-star customer spirit. It's infused
Yeah.
with the attributes. It's easier than ever to do that now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so that's the platform that you're using to building, and you're creating basically Google Docs or Word documents
Yeah.
from ChatGPT,
So
and then you're handing that. How are you distributing it?
through way well, we use way we do.
I'm sorry.
We use way we do.
Way we
Way
do.
we do. It's a web platform, standard operating procedure platform that you can. We're going to be launching it. We've been building it for multiple years. It's not fully integrated in our company yet. It's one of our goals for 26. If I were to show you, I mean, we have so much. I mean, I have contingency planning in there. We have, if my spring breaks for one of my overhead doors, it's a process of, okay, these are the 3 companies to contact. We've really developed that, and our onboarding is on there. When a new hire comes in, our sexual harassment training's on there. We utilize it. It's a wonderful tool. We pay $100 a month for the software. It's pretty inexpensive. You just have to build it, and you can. I mean, it's so flexible. One of the things I'll be developing is a video of when I'm not here every day. It's a video telling of who I am, who was my father, who
I like it.
why is it important why is our vision, mission, values? It's coming from my voice. It's
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. All right. Nice. Well, that's a good tip. And so, maybe I'll make sure that gets shared during that panel. So that sounds, I'll have to check out that platform. I'm not familiar with it, so I'll have to check that out. But it doesn't have to be a daunting task. That's the thing. And what I just heard from you was, no, you don't start with a particular process. You first start with defining yourself and then start with a particular process.
that's the why, right? What they say, right? The people that I forgot. This is a powerful statement. The people that know the why, right? The people that know how always work for the people that know why.
Okay.
That's the terminology of it, and I love that because that's a part. And then you teach your leaders the why, right? And then you empower your leaders as it goes. But everything starts with yourself as the leader of your company, your organization,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
building that foundation, which to me is our vision, mission, values.
Okay. So what's next for Lou's Car Care? Like, let's wrap this up by talking about your vision for 2026, 27, 28, 30. Well, what does Lou's Car Care look like in a year or 2 years?
Yeah,
Are you making new buildings? Are you going to add? You've got more land. Are you just going to add more warehouses and steel barns? What are you going to do?
well, I just we'll be opening. I added a fleet expansion, which will be able to house heavy duty trucks. So that will be opening in, I'd say, probably late October, beginning of November. So we just added another 3,500 square feet with large bays. I have 3 14 by 16 doors. I'll have 30,000-pound drive-on lift, 20,000-pound two-post lift. I've just added. We added a half acre of parking on our property that we'll have. And so with that, they'll give me 16 bays. That will give me capacity to get our business to 4 million. Now it's a matter of building the team and building our fleet business to get there. And then as our business keeps progressing, and the catalyst is going to be driven by fleet, is our collision center, which my collision center is roughly about 8,000 square feet. I'm anticipating within 5 years, we'll be able to move into that space, automotive repair wise. And that'll give us, when I look at what I have here, what we can do, we're,
Your tenant right now, you think will move out or just retire, or what
well,
are you thinking
my
there?
uncle, he will be 65. He'll be coming to a point where, I'm actually going to have to set a date to when we're going to move into that space and go
Okay.
forward from there.
Really interesting. You're not going to continue with the collision.
Now, I personally, I'm not I just, I don't get
That's
joy. I
okay.
don't get any joy from that business. So
Okay. Yeah. All right. Um, all right. So so you see two different expansions over the next, 2 to 5 years. Some are happening more. uh,
yeah.
uh, you're going to have to add more BDs on the ground, right? More boots on the ground, more
we
business
have
developers.
started working that plan as well.
Mhm.
An expansion as well as in 2027, I will be building a training facility for level 5 leadership on property. So this facility is going to have we're going to have an area to where I want to do technical training for technicians. I will have a 35 to 40 person conference room training center that we can teach business acumen, teach leadership, teach sales, a mix of different things that's in that property. So that's the design work will be working on that next year with us breaking ground in 27 for that project.
Okay. All right. I like it. So there are plenty of people that when I ask that question, they're like, and they're hemming and hawing, but you've got it mapped out, and mapping it out is, I guess I shouldn't be surprised because you're coaching. You've got to map these things out, and that's part of it. Uh, Lou, thank you so much for sharing your story. I don't know. I feel like we could just keep talking for even longer, but it's already been over an hour, and I don't. It's been a good conversation, and I've had fun. And like I said, I feel like we could do another 2 or 3 hours, and I don't know that we should. Sometimes you shouldn't. What's the expression? Don't do things just because you can, right? Uh, so you've already told people where they can find you, and so thank you for that. And I'm going to be doing some additional research on way we do and that kind of thing, so that I can prepare for the shop owners panel coming up in November of 2025. Because I think that's a big challenge for people.
Can I add
Uh,
one thing really quick? So the gentleman who helped me
Please.
with Way We Do, he's a gentleman. He's located in Washington State. His business is called Step by Step, and he was in the collision industry. And when he sold his business, because he was so process oriented, he ended up getting another 250,000. He shared with me because he had processes in place for the
Wow.
value of his business. So again, people looking to sell their business, the value that goes into having your business set up that way, because again, it's how profitable is your business going to be, or how sustainable is minus the owner, minus the founder.
Minus the owner,
Right.
yes.
So
We had an episode on succession planning in August of 2025, and I can quickly look up what episode number that was. But that was brought up, right? Was plan for that, and that will actually the value of your business is less the cost of replacing the owner, and that was episode 32. Um, and so, also check that out as well. But I think that's a really good point that you're bringing up. That step by step, something someone could also look into. Um, is that like a website that's out there, or is that just someone
that's the
that
name of
was?
it. That's the name of his business. His name is Greg Odom. He was referred to me from one of my members of my 20 group. But in closing, too, is if you do have your business, again, if you are a professional and run your business at a high level of what that looks like, why ever sell your business? Because what you'll ever get for your business, you will make 10 times that as an owner if you set it up properly.
It's an
Yeah.
interesting,
My
interesting.
philosophy, I would never think to sell. I would want to live what I preach. I would want to have people. And when I talk about leaders, not to continue longer, like my leaders, where I'm developing a profit share program, because if I want them to think and act like an owner, they need to be paid like an owner. And I want to share that with them because that's going to allow me freedom. It's going to allow me the freedom to grow level 5, allow me the freedom to one day get on the road and speak, allow me to do different things. And I want to compensate them properly because again, they have to be part of that. And that's what I'll be doing in the coming years as well.
I, I I like that. I like I mean, from where I sit, if you build it with the right processes, you've built it on the foundation of the values, the mission, and the care and the experience for your customers. You've managed that to a T. You've got the people in place where you're not involved on a day-to-day or even month-to-month basis necessarily. It almost is like the best annuity you can get.
Yeah. And you could set
All
your
right. So
business up. I mean,
yeah,
it's a whole other conversation, but it's possible. I believe it because that's what's it's what I want to happen.
Okay. And there's the vision. That's your vision too, hopefully. And so if you're looking to grow your shop, if you're looking to improve your shop, make sure you're plugged into the right coaching group for you, and make sure that you have the right marketing in place. And as you know, the Garage Grip podcast is paid for by aashopmarketing.com, a digital marketing company specific for repair shops. And we are always looking for shops that are trying to do more, trying to grow, trying to get their shop to the next level. But I've got plenty of stories for you that where we've increased the marketing, the visibility, the online visibility. We've increased the number of calls that have come into the shop. And I can tell you from my own experience that you need to also be, once we start working with you from the marketing side, you need to have a process to start developing. You need to start developing your process. You need to start developing your people to convert those increased calls into customers, because that's not what we're doing, right? We're not taking those calls for you. We're actually just making the calls happen. It's your people, it's their attitudes that are actually going to make that customer trust you, trust your shop. And they're the ones that are going to, then in the end, uh, handle that customer experience for you. But digital marketing is a key to, or just marketing in general is a key to actually growing your shop in many ways. So if you're looking to grow your shop, keep listening to the Garage Grip podcast. You can head over to aashopmarketing.com and check out on the homepage. You can, scroll down just a little bit, fill out a form for next steps. And what we do is we do a little bit of research for you. We'll share your next best step for your marketing process. That's not the holy grail. That's not going to be the whole thing, but sometimes just taking that next step is what matters. So whether it be going out to Lou's website or calling him up and talking about what it looks like to coach with him, or whether it goes out to AA Shop Marketing and find out what your next marketing step is, just take the step forward. Or maybe it's just listening to the next episode of the Garage Grit podcast. So, and with that, all right, those are your steps. Maybe I'll see you on the next podcast. Thank you.